Well, how far would you go to tell the truth? That's the question posed by a remarkable new documentary called Silenced, which just premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival. It follows three national security whistleblowers who fight to reveal the darkest corners of America's war on terror, challenging a government that is increasingly determined to maintain secrecy as it expands its powers. They are former Justice Department lawyer Jesselyn Radack, former senior NSA official Thomas Drake, and the former CIA officer John Kiriakou. The film depicts the extraordinary lengths the government traversed to wreak havoc on their personal lives through a sustained campaign of intimidation and harassment. This is the trailer for Silenced.
Part of the purpose of doing what they've been doing for the last several years is to destroy you.
I never thought of myself as a whistleblower. Sometimes I go back and forth in my mind where I wish I had kept my mouth shut, and other times I wish that I had shouted it from the rooftops.
There is information that the public in a functioning democracy has a right to know.
Thomas Jefferson said that an informed citizenry is the crucial part of the democracy.
I took an oath. I had to deal with a government who was in violation of the oath, and I couldn't remain silent.
I could not live with myself knowing that another human being could be put to death because I kept my mouth shut.
Would you call it torture? Waterboarding is probably something that we shouldn't be in the business of doing.
I was the first CIA officer to confirm the use of torture techniques against al-Qaeda prisoners.
Our country had instituted a torture policy, and we ran head into that.
You're supposed to accept these things as normal because to the people who have been there, it is completely normal.
NSA would now instrument the United States of America for the purposes of dragnet blanket electronic surveillance on a vast scale.
I explained the facts of my case to my lawyer. He said, wow, you meet the classic textbook definition of a whistleblower.
We're people who join the government for all the good reasons, work for a number of years, and then confront something that just stops us.
The White House has approved it. It's all legal. As soon as he said it's all legal, the hair stood up on the back of my neck.
They began asking me questions. Well, I've spent my entire adult life working with the FBI. So the FBI needs my help, I'm happy to help.
He looked at the file and said very matter-of-factly, this file has been purged.
They're now engaged in an active cover-up at the highest levels.
It wasn't until I was about an hour into this interview that I realized, wait a minute, they're investigating me.
The apparatus of the U.S. government was turned against me.
Every phone call you've ever made, emails you've ever sent, your bank statements, tax records.
I was trying to be honest and obey the law, and yet I'm the one who ends up having to hire a team of lawyers.
They set the target. They put the bullseye on me. It said, we're going to make an example of him.
I have to try to protect my children from being exposed to it. I've got the FBI surveilling me on and off for the last 7 months.
You have to mortgage your house. You have to empty your bank account.
I've applied for every job I can think of. Haven't gotten even an email or a call back.
The people that you used to work with have turned against you. Your neighbors are at least suspicious because it's not every day that government investigators are knocking on their doors.
What has now happened to my family? It's a very tormented existence.
You're not loyal, you're not a good American, you're a terrorist sympathizer.
That secrecy regime, despite President Obama's pledges of transparency and openness, has only continued to expand.
I'm not the pushover that these guys think I am. I'm as tough as they are, and I'm gonna fight.
That trailer for the new documentary Silence just premiered at Tribeca Film Festival. We're joined by the film's director, James Spion. His previous documentary, Incident in New Baghdad, was nominated for an Academy Award. Welcome to Democracy Now! Talk about why you chose these three people, Tom Drake, Jesselyn Radack, as well as John Kiriakou.
Thank you for having me, by the way. I really, making my previous film, Incident in New Baghdad, this was on my radar. Of course, that film was made possible because of that footage released by WikiLeaks, and we now know it was Chelsea Manning who released this footage of an Apache helicopter attack in Baghdad. And so that got me to thinking about this whole, who controls the information, who's allowed to release it, who's not, what is the American public allowed to see, and what aren't they allowed to see, and who are the people who kind of have the courage to step up and say, wait a minute, when the whole bureaucracy is going another direction, they say, well, I'm not sure about this, you know, and dissenting against what's the common practice. So I thought, well, these are kind of rare individuals, and I want to learn more about them, and that's when I started researching the people in my